In 2015, Baton Rouge was thrust into the grips of a chilling mystery when a call from the director of a local fitness center set off a chain of events that no one could have predicted. The report concerned Jordan Campbell, a 28-year-old personal trainer whose reputation for discipline and reliability had made him a cornerstone of the gym's success. Jordan hadn't been seen or heard from in over a week, an absence that was both unusual and deeply troubling to his colleagues. Jordan was known for his unwavering punctuality and dedication to his clients. Missing a single day of work was out of character, let alone an entire week. When repeated calls and texts to his phone went unanswered, and the gym's director failed to reach anyone who could account for his whereabouts, a sense of unease began to spread. Jordan was a private individual with no close family or known romantic relationships. This lack of personal ties only deepened the mystery of his sudden disappearance. Police officers were dispatched to Jordan's modest home, a single-story property tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. From the outside, everything appeared normal. The lawn was neatly trimmed, and the blinds were drawn, giving no immediate indication that anything was amiss. Officers knocked several times but received no response. After obtaining permission from their superiors, they forced entry into the house. The interior was immaculately clean, almost eerily so. Dishes sat washed and neatly stacked in the kitchen, and the living room was orderly, with no signs of disruption. At first glance, nothing suggested foul play. However, as the officers moved deeper into the house, a faint metallic smell began to permeate the air. Following the source, they descended into the basement. What they found there was nothing short of horrifying. Jordan's body lay sprawled on a workout bench, his lifeless form drenched in blood. His head had been severely damaged, with a large gash that revealed the fatal force of the impact. Beside him on the floor were several weight plates, their edges stained with blood. The grisly scene suggested a tragic accident. It appeared that Jordan had been performing a French press exercise when one of the plates slipped free and struck him in the head. The barbell itself remained on its rack, but the locking mechanisms for the weights were loose, as if improperly secured. At first, the officers believed they were dealing with a freak accident, an unfortunate mishap in the routine of an experienced trainer. However, as they examined the basement more closely, inconsistencies began to emerge. A small stool near the bench was overturned, lying several feet from where it likely should have been. Blood spatters on the walls and floor didn't align with the trajectory one might expect from the supposed accident. Additionally, there was no sign of Jordan's phone or gym bag, items that he was known to keep close at hand. These anomalies raised questions. Why was the stool out of place? Why were the blood patterns inconsistent with the initial theory? Most importantly, where was Jordan's phone? The absence of such a crucial piece of evidence deepened the suspicions of the investigators. The officers cordoned off the house, treating the scene as a potential crime rather than an accident. Forensic experts arrived to document every detail, from the angle of the blood spatter to the positioning of the weights. They swabbed the barbell for fingerprints and collected samples of the blood-soaked floor for further analysis. Meanwhile, detectives began canvassing the neighborhood, questioning anyone who might have seen or heard something unusual in the days leading up to Jordan's death. By the time the scene was cleared, it was evident that this was no ordinary case. What initially seemed like a tragic workout accident now carried the hallmarks of something far more sinister. The town of Baton Rouge braced itself as whispers of foul play began to circulate, and the police launched a full-scale investigation into the mysterious death of Jordan Campbell. At 22 years old, Marcus Fields lived a life defined by isolation and self-doubt. Standing over 6 feet tall and carrying more weight than he cared to admit, Marcus moved through the world with averted eyes and hunched shoulders, as if apologizing for his very presence. His days were monotonous, spent working long hours at a local electronics store, where he managed inventory and assisted customers with technical issues. While competent at his job, Marcus avoided meaningful interactions with his coworkers, speaking only when necessary and rarely engaging in casual conversations. Marcus's evenings were no different. He would retreat to his small, dimly lit apartment and immerse himself in the escape provided by video games. The online worlds where he excelled offered him a sense of control and achievement that he lacked in his real life. However, the comfort these virtual escapes provided was fleeting. When the screens went dark, Marcus was left with the reality of his insecurities and the overwhelming loneliness that had become his constant companion. His routine changed abruptly when Kayla Mitchell joined the team at the electronics store. Kayla, a young woman in her early 20s, radiated warmth and kindness. She was quick to smile and made an effort to include everyone around her in conversations. Unlike others who dismissed Marcus as shy or aloof, Kayla went out of her way to connect with him. She asked about his favorite video games, complimented his knowledge of electronics, and even shared stories about her own struggles with adapting to a new workplace. For Marcus, these small gestures were monumental. Kayla's kindness made him feel visible in a way he had never experienced before. He began to look forward to their brief interactions during breaks or shifts, cherishing every moment of her attention. Over time, these moments grew into a deep infatuation. For the first time in his life, Marcus found himself dreaming of a relationship, one where he could finally feel valued and loved. But Marcus's insecurities were a constant barrier. He couldn't imagine someone like Kayla being interested in someone like him. His weight, his social awkwardness, and his lack of confidence all seemed like insurmountable obstacles. Determined to change, Marcus decided to take control of his life. He joined a local gym with the singular goal of becoming someone Kayla might find attractive. At the gym, Marcus met Jordan Campbell, a personal trainer known for his motivating attitude and personalized approach to fitness. Jordan was the antithesis of Marcus, confident, athletic, and effortlessly charismatic. Yet, from the very first session, Jordan treated Marcus with genuine respect. He didn't ridicule Marcus's lack of experience or belittle his physical state. Instead, he focused on Marcus's potential, designing a regimen tailored to his needs and pushing him to believe in himself. Under Jordan's guidance, Marcus began to see results faster than he expected. The pounds started to melt away, his stamina improved, and for the first time in years, he felt proud of his body. Jordan wasn't just a trainer, he became a mentor and, in many ways, a friend. They often stayed late after sessions, discussing everything from fitness goals to Marcus's hopes for the future. Jordan encouraged Marcus to take pride in his progress and reminded him that his worth wasn't solely tied to his appearance. As the weeks turned into months, Marcus's life began to transform. He no longer avoided mirrors or felt embarrassed walking into the gym. His newfound confidence spilled into other areas of his life, and he began to interact more openly with his coworkers, including Kayla. However, despite the strides he was making, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he was still leagues away from being the kind of man Kayla would choose. This lingering insecurity would soon become the foundation for decisions that would change his life forever. For now, though, Marcus's bond with Jordan continued to grow. Their sessions were a highlight of Marcus's week, and he found himself opening up to Jordan in ways he hadn't with anyone before. He confided in Jordan about his feelings for Kayla, his struggles with self-esteem, and his fears of rejection. Jordan, always supportive, offered advice and encouragement, becoming a source of stability in Marcus's turbulent inner world. Unbeknownst to Marcus, his journey of transformation was leading him down a path filled with emotional complexity and unforeseen consequences. His admiration for Jordan and reliance on his guidance would soon evolve into something far more complicated, setting the stage for a chain of events that would ultimately shatter the lives of everyone involved. Marcus's newfound confidence, hard-earned through months of dedication and support from Jordan, began to crumble under the weight of a devastating revelation. One ordinary afternoon at work, while stacking inventory in the back room, Marcus overheard two coworkers talking in hushed tones. Their laughter carried a cruel edge, and curiosity got the better of him. As he eavesdropped, Marcus's heart sank. They were discussing Kayla, the one person who had been a beacon of kindness in his life. She was, they claimed, secretly involved with their married boss, a man known for his charm and questionable ethics. The revelation hit Marcus like a freight train. The woman he had silently admired, who had been the driving force behind his transformation, was not the person he had imagined. Worse, she was involved with someone who treated the relationship as little more than an indiscretion. Marcus's fantasies of a future with Kayla shattered, replaced by an overwhelming sense of inadequacy and betrayal. Struggling to process his emotions, Marcus attended his next training session with Jordan. His usual enthusiasm and focus were replaced by a brooding silence. Sensing something was wrong, Jordan pressed Marcus to share what was bothering him. After some hesitation, Marcus poured out the details of what he had overheard. He spoke about Kayla, his feelings for her, and the devastating blow of discovering her relationship with their boss. For Marcus, this was more than unrequited love, it was a confirmation of his deepest fears that he would never be good enough. Jordan listened intently, offering words of encouragement and empathy. He reminded Marcus of how far he had come and tried to shift his focus away from Kayla. To lighten the mood, Jordan suggested they take a break from the gym and do something fun. That evening, they went bowling. For the first time in days, Marcus found himself laughing and momentarily forgetting his heartbreak. After the outing, Jordan invited Marcus back to his house. They sat in the living room, sharing stories and beers, the conversation flowing more freely than usual. Jordan's casual demeanor and genuine concern for Marcus's well-being made him feel safe and valued. As the night wore on, the atmosphere grew quieter, more intimate. Marcus, emboldened by the sense of closeness they shared, acted on an impulse he didn't fully understand. He leaned in and kissed Jordan. To Marcus's surprise, Jordan didn't pull away. Instead, he reciprocated, and what began as a tentative moment of connection quickly deepened. For Marcus, it was a mix of emotions he had never experienced before: comfort, exhilaration, and a sense of belonging he hadn't known he craved. That night, their relationship crossed a line, evolving into something far more personal and complicated. In the weeks that followed, Marcus and Jordan continued to see each other in secret. Their relationship was a source of joy for Marcus, but it also brought new anxieties. Marcus had never considered the possibility of being with a man, and the secrecy of their connection amplified his insecurities. He questioned whether Jordan's feelings were genuine or if he was just another project for the charismatic trainer. These doubts gnawed at him, even as he found solace in their private moments together. For Jordan, the relationship was equally complex. He cared deeply for Marcus and wanted to support him, but he was also aware of the risks. Their connection was built on a foundation of vulnerability, and Jordan knew that any cracks in their dynamic could lead to unintended consequences. Despite their best efforts to keep things hidden, the emotional stakes of their relationship continued to rise, setting the stage for conflicts neither of them could anticipate. Marcus's insecurities began to resurface in subtle but telling ways. He became increasingly protective of his time with Jordan, watching closely for any sign that his trainer's attention was wandering. Their once relaxed training sessions were tinged with tension, as Marcus struggled to reconcile his feelings of attachment with the fear of losing what they had built. Unbeknownst to both of them, their secret relationship was on a collision course with events that would unravel everything they had tried to hold together. Marcus's heartbreak, Jordan's attempts to navigate their connection, and the complexities of their shared vulnerability were all about to explode in ways neither could foresee. The delicate balance of Marcus and Jordan's secret relationship began to crumble when Marcus noticed a change in Jordan's behavior. A new female client had recently joined the gym, and her interactions with Jordan were difficult for Marcus to ignore. She was confident, attractive, and openly flirtatious during their sessions. Jordan, always charming and approachable, seemed to reciprocate her attention, laughing at her jokes and offering praise that felt far too personal to Marcus. Each interaction between them chipped away at Marcus's fragile sense of security, stirring feelings of jealousy and inadequacy that he couldn't suppress. At first, Marcus tried to rationalize his emotions, telling himself that Jordan was simply being professional. But as days turned into weeks, the tension grew unbearable. Jordan's behavior toward the woman appeared increasingly familiar, and Marcus began obsessing over every detail of their interactions. During his own training sessions, Marcus felt Jordan's attention slipping away, as though he were just another client rather than someone who shared a deeper connection with him. One evening at the gym, Marcus's frustration boiled over. Catching Jordan alone in the corner of the weight room, Marcus confronted him, his voice low but shaking with emotion. He accused Jordan of leading him on and questioned the nature of his relationship with the new client. Jordan, clearly caught off guard, laughed nervously and dismissed Marcus's concerns. He insisted that the woman was just another client and that Marcus was overreacting. But his casual tone, coupled with his refusal to take Marcus's feelings seriously, only deepened the sting of betrayal. Marcus left the gym that night feeling humiliated and angrier than ever. The idea that he had been used, not just by Kayla but now possibly by Jordan, consumed him. He replayed their conversations in his mind, searching for clues that Jordan had been lying to him all along. The thought of Jordan moving on so easily, discarding him for someone else, felt like a cruel confirmation of all his deepest fears. Later that night, unable to sleep, Marcus made a decision. He needed answers, and he needed closure. Without thinking about the consequences, he drove to Jordan's house. The lights were on, and Marcus could see movement through the basement window. Jordan was alone, working out on his bench press, his focus entirely on his routine. Marcus let himself in, his heart pounding as he descended the stairs. Jordan looked up, surprised but not alarmed, and greeted Marcus casually. But Marcus wasn't in the mood for pleasantries. The conversation escalated quickly, with Marcus pressing Jordan for the truth about his relationship with the woman. Cornered and frustrated, Jordan finally admitted that he had been sleeping with her but insisted it was meaningless. He tried to downplay the situation, but his dismissive tone only poured fuel on Marcus's burning anger. As the argument intensified, Jordan lay back on the bench, attempting to resume his workout as if to end the conversation. But Marcus couldn't let it go. Trembling with rage, he grabbed a nearby weight plate. Without fully realizing what he was doing, he raised the heavy plate above his head and brought it down with all his strength. The sound of the impact was sickening. Jordan's body slumped on the bench, motionless, as blood began to pool beneath him. Marcus froze, staring at what he had done. The reality of the situation hit him like a wave, and panic set in. His mind raced as he tried to figure out his next move. Desperate to cover his tracks, Marcus grabbed Jordan's phone, knowing it contained incriminating evidence of their relationship. He wiped it clean of messages and any sign of their connection before fleeing the scene. As he drove away, his hands shaking on the steering wheel, the weight of his actions began to sink in. He had crossed a line that could never be undone, leaving behind a crime scene that would soon unravel his carefully constructed facade. The investigation into Jordan Campbell's death began with questions surrounding the fitness trainer's seemingly accidental demise. Initially, the bloodied weight plates and his position on the bench suggested a tragic gym accident. However, as detectives examined the scene more closely, inconsistencies surfaced. The overturned stool, blood spatter inconsistent with a simple accident, and the absence of Jordan's phone pointed to something far more sinister. Detectives started by interviewing Jordan's coworkers and clients at the fitness center. Many described him as a personable and dedicated trainer, someone who was well-liked and seemed to have no enemies. However, a few witnesses noted that Jordan had a particularly close relationship with one client, Marcus Fields, who frequented the gym almost obsessively. Employees recalled seeing the two spending time together outside of training sessions, their dynamic seemingly more personal than professional. From there, the focus shifted to Marcus. When detectives visited his workplace, his co-workers painted a picture of a socially awkward and reserved individual. Some mentioned his noticeable physical transformation over the past few months and his frequent mentions of Jordan. A deeper dive into Marcus's social media accounts revealed cryptic posts about betrayal and heartbreak, which investigators noted as potential indicators of his emotional state leading up to the crime. Detectives also tracked down Jordan's recent communications through his email and social media accounts, though his missing phone posed a significant obstacle. A search of Jordan's cloud storage revealed encrypted app messages he had sent to a close friend. In these messages, Jordan confided about his secret relationship with Marcus. He described Marcus as initially sweet and vulnerable but increasingly possessive and prone to jealousy. One message, dated just days before his death, mentioned that Marcus had confronted him at the gym about a female client, leading to a heated argument. This revelation provided detectives with a possible motive. Armed with this information, they obtained a warrant to search Marcus's apartment. The search yielded critical evidence: Jordan's missing phone, wiped clean of most data but still containing fragments of messages between the two. Forensic experts worked to recover the deleted files, which revealed affectionate exchanges and, more damningly, arguments that hinted at Marcus's growing frustration and Jordan's attempts to placate him. As the investigation deepened, detectives pieced together a timeline of events leading up to the night of the murder. Marcus had been seen entering Jordan's house late that evening by a neighbor, who thought nothing of it at the time since Marcus was a frequent visitor. Surveillance footage from a nearby traffic camera confirmed Marcus's vehicle leaving the area shortly afterward. A deeper dive into the recovered data from Jordan's phone revealed explicit messages where Marcus expressed both admiration and frustration toward Jordan. These messages, combined with witness statements and forensic evidence from the crime scene, pointed unequivocally to Marcus as the prime suspect. The final piece of evidence came from the weight plate used in the murder. Forensic analysis revealed fingerprints matching Marcus's on the bloodied surface. The weight of the physical evidence, combined with the digital trail, left little doubt in the minds of investigators that Marcus was responsible for Jordan's death. Detectives moved quickly to apprehend Marcus, knowing that his emotional instability could make him unpredictable. When officers arrived at his apartment to arrest him, Marcus was quiet and compliant, offering no resistance. As they placed him in handcuffs, his expression was blank, as if the weight of his actions had finally settled on him. Inside the patrol car, he sat silently, staring out the window, while detectives prepared to present their findings to the district attorney. The community, which had been following the case closely, was stunned by the revelations. The narrative of a gym accident gave way to a darker tale of obsession, betrayal, and unchecked emotions spiraling into violence. For the investigators, the case was nearly closed, but the emotional scars left on those involved were only beginning to surface. Marcus Fields' arrest sent shockwaves through Baton Rouge. The quiet, unassuming young man, who had transformed himself under the guidance of Jordan Campbell, was now at the center of a murder trial. Prosecutors charged Marcus with second-degree murder, citing the overwhelming evidence of his violent actions. During the trial, his defense team painted a picture of a deeply troubled individual, overwhelmed by emotional turmoil and driven to a moment of uncontrollable rage. Psychological experts testified about Marcus's lifelong struggle with self-esteem and social isolation, compounded by his complicated feelings for Jordan. They argued that Marcus had not planned to kill Jordan but had acted impulsively during a heated argument. The defense sought leniency, portraying Marcus as a man whose vulnerabilities had spiraled into a tragic mistake. However, the prosecution countered with the brutal facts of the case, the calculated act of taking Jordan's phone to hide their relationship and the ferocity of the attack itself. After days of emotional testimony, the jury deliberated and returned a verdict of guilty. Marcus was sentenced to 20 years in prison, with eligibility for parole after 15 years. In the courtroom, he sat motionless as the sentence was read, his face a mask of regret and resignation. For the first time, the full weight of his actions seemed to settle on him. The fitness community where Jordan had been a beloved figure was devastated. His colleagues and clients organized a memorial service at the gym, transforming the space into a tribute to the man who had inspired so many. Stories of Jordan's kindness and dedication poured in from clients who credited him with changing their lives. A mural was painted in his honor, bearing the words, "Strength and spirit, forever in our hearts." For Marcus, life in prison became a harsh reality. Removed from the world he had fought so hard to fit into, he spent his days reflecting on the series of events that had led him to this point. Letters from former coworkers and acquaintances trickled in, some expressing sympathy, others condemning his actions. Marcus often replayed the night of the murder in his mind, haunted by the moment he let his emotions consume him. The case became a topic of discussion in Baton Rouge and beyond, a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked jealousy and unspoken desires. Community leaders used it as an opportunity to address issues of mental health and emotional well-being, especially among young men struggling with identity and self-worth. Programs were launched in local gyms to provide not just physical training but emotional support, ensuring that others like Marcus had a better chance at navigating their struggles. Evelyn Carter, the woman who had been the unwitting catalyst of Marcus's jealousy, left her job at the gym and moved to another city, unable to bear the weight of what had happened. She, too, was a victim of the tragedy, her life forever altered by a love triangle she had unknowingly stepped into. Years later, Marcus began to find some semblance of peace. Through counseling and time, he came to terms with his actions, though the regret never left him. He worked in the prison library, helping other inmates with their studies and finding solace in small acts of kindness. The memory of Jordan remained with him always, a reminder of the friendship and love he had destroyed in a moment of blind rage. For Baton Rouge, the story of Jordan Campbell and Marcus Fields remained a painful chapter, a stark illustration of how hidden emotions and fractured identities could erupt into violence. The tragedy left scars on everyone it touched, but it also sparked conversations and changes, ensuring that the lessons learned would not be forgotten.